does it take to get attention online when you are an expert?
You are watching Influence Media, PSI TV, the Netflix of biz brands.
This is the first of a 3-part series on expertise content that engages your audience. Today, we're going to look at some tactics. And in the upcoming weeks, we'll look at the target and the transformation. So expertise content that engages your audience, tactics are what we're looking at today. So I'm going to tell you a story. We're going to see what the Bible has to say, what research has to say, all of which I bring week after week strategies to help you optimize opportunities to be discovered and to become famous for what you do. Trudy Beerman here of Profitable Social Influence TV, PSI TV. I'm also a doctoral candidate at Liberty University, and because I'm in the media space, I am pursuing research in this space of influential reach. Now, influential reach is an interesting concept because we all understand influence. A lot of you experts are big fish in small ponds. However, that's not going to be enough to grow or sustain your business. So I'm always encouraging you to jump ponds and grow again. Go outside of your comfort zone into places that they don't know you at all and build your influence and your audience reach. So today we're looking at expertise content that engages your audience, some tactics, and let me tell you a story. Saul is a king of Israel at this point. David, who has been anointed, but not yet king, he is in Saul's court, serving Saul. And at this point, he is leader of the military. So there's just been a war with the Philistines. And when they're coming home, it says, as they were coming home, when David returned from striking down the Philistine, the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul. So they came to meet King Saul. They came with tambourines, with songs of joy, with musical instruments, and the women sang one to another as they celebrated. Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very angry. And this displeased him. He said, they have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they've ascribed thousands. And what more can he have but the kingdom? There's a whole lot to unpack here. But from the concept of tactics, I want you to understand that these women came out to see the king. He is the king. But David, unlike King Saul, had social proof. He had actually struck down not only thousands of Philistines, tens of thousands of Philistines, but don't forget the biggest one of them all, Goliath. So he had social proof of his expertise. So Saul was a king, and they did come to see the king, but they were acknowledging the social proof, the evidence of David's expertise. And sometimes jealousy can truly step into the ring, but we'll talk a little bit about that in the upcoming weeks. I just wanted to focus on the tactic of social proof, of having evidence of your expertise. Now, research shows that the average successful entrepreneur is on average age group 42 years. That's the average age of a successful entrepreneur. But the age distribution of entrepreneurs from the age of 35 on, especially the 55-year and older group, this is the largest group, age group of entrepreneurs. By this time, you've lived some life, you've built up some expertise, some credentials, some mastery, and you now run a business. The more seasoned veterans of life are the ones who are in the majority of the business owners. Well, let's go on to see some additional statistics. It says, YouTube says that of the 32.5 million businesses in the US, only 9% of them have a YouTube representation. While users 35 plus on Facebook and Instagram maintain a profile presence, you have a profile, but you are not active. So they're more passive consumers of content, engaging through likes, comments, and shares rather than creating new posts. So when we look at content that engages your audience, if you're not producing content, guys, you are not going to have an audience to engage. So you need to be creating content in the first place. Why did the cybersecurity expert bring a ladder to the presentation? Because influencers were in the audience and he wanted to make sure they were elevated enough to understand his content. So as a tactic, you are presenting blah, 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 jargon, jargon, jargon. And your audience is bored out of their wits. Bored out of their wits. So in addition to creating content so that people can engage with the content, that content needs to have an element of interest to it. Now, here's a tip that I have for you. So Madison Brightwell was a guest on PSI TV. Now, she has her own YouTube channel and she has at this point 1 subscriber. She comes on PSI TV and in the single show, she gets over 2,000 views, 10 comments and 119 likes. Now, here's the difference. On her channel, because she's an author and she's an expert, when you go and say, I'm this, I'm that, I'm great, I'm the other, versus having a host of another show say, you're great, you're awesome, go check out her product. So the tip I have for you today is to get in front of other people's audiences. Get in front of other people's audiences because it's going to expose you and your offer to more people, and that host is going to elevate you instead of you having to blow your own horn. The idea is to stand out from the competitive pack. You're not the only one doing what you're doing, but you don't want to blend in and be a blur and make it harder for you to be found for what you do. The whole goal is to become famous for what you do, so you are the name that comes to mind, the obvious choice. So let's recap what we talked about here in part 1. So we're looking at expertise content that engages your audience. And today I was focusing in on tactics. So this show was more of an example of tactics than a real flow of content for the sake of delivering that content. The goal of today's show was to introduce you to some tactics that you as an expert can use to engage the audience that you are already in front of. But you do also want to work on expanding the audiences that you're in front of. And that's what we're going to look at a little bit more next week. Today we looked at tactics. Next week we'll look at the target. And then finally we'll wrap it up with transformation. Trudy Beerman here of Profitable Social Influence TV, PSI TV. Join me next week. I'm super simple to find and I do look forward